Pretty similar, aren't they? So, it would have been nice to have got a bigger lead, I think, in this first innings. The wicket was pretty good, to be fair. There was a bit of swing around throughout the day with the overheads, but the wicket itself actually played quite nice. So, a lot of us got in, had good starts, and weren't able to go on with it.
But at one stage, it looked like potentially a significant deficit, 180 odd for 6 and 7. You managed to get ahead.
Yeah, a couple of partnerships at the end obviously helped. I thought at that stage it was a time to sort of just start a bit of a counter punch. Obviously didn't come off, and it might have been a little bit early that I hit the trigger potentially the way Camo was batting. But, had I not got out then, Murph mightn't have come out and got 34 the way he did as well. So, it wasn't a bad end to the day, I think. But I think overall we're probably a little bit disappointed we couldn't get a bit bigger lead.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in comms, wasn't there, particularly this morning, with just sort of the lack of being able to turn the scoreboard over early on. I'm sure, as it always is, everyone wants to bat the day out, but was it a set plan today to really try and grind it out, or is just the way that England bowled this morning it made it difficult?
Yeah, no, there was no set plan. It was just about the batters going out and playing what they saw in front of them. And to be fair, I thought they bowled really well this morning. They didn't give us a lot of freebies. Obviously, they're a little bit shorter and enabled Marnus to leave quite a bit, but I thought they bowled pretty well, to be fair. So credit where it's due. And then we could probably, if we're able to take it a little bit deeper, they've got to keep bowling more overs and we can get more opportunities to score runs at the back end of the day like we did. But if the batters are in doing that, I think it'd make a huge difference for us.
Were you surprised by the amount of movement
one side for them, and they were swinging it, and they're obviously very good swing bowlers, so there was certainly a lot of swing. The new ball probably didn't do quite as much. There wasn't a great deal of seam either, so it was, like I said, it was a pretty good wicket. It felt like it was a good wicket out there all day, just the swing with the overheads at times, but probably a little disappointed that we weren't able to capitalise and get a bigger lead.
Just with the two contrasting sessions, the morning and the afternoon, so 54 for 1 in 26, I take your point about how well they bowled and Marnus could leave a lot. Does that potentially leave you exposed to a Stuart Broad spell immediately after the lunch break, and you haven't got ahead of the game, you haven't put any pressure, and you're still a long way back on the scoreboard?
Potentially. You want to try and keep the scoreboard ticking as much as possible, but guys are also allowed to bowl well. It's Test cricket, and you got to respect those periods at times as well. So, like I said before, I think we could have got rewards back end of the day if we had more wickets in the shed and a batter in, and they're a bit tighter as the day went on, but it wasn't to be.
Well played to you. What pleased you about the way you batted today?
No, I thought I was in good positions today. I've been working the last few days. I think my prelim movement's a little bit smaller at times to certain bowlers and what have you. So it's a couple of things I've been working on throughout the week. I felt like I've been moving a little bit too far across, and I really love batting at the Oval. It's a lovely place to play. If you get yourself in, you get good value for your shots, and the bounce is quite consistent most of the time. So I do enjoy playing here, and unfortunately couldn't capitalise.
What would you be saying to the bowlers, obviously going into tomorrow morning? You batted for a long time out on that wicket today. Anything that the bowlers need to adjust from the first innings to the second on that surface?
I think as the game goes on, it'll just be about bowling the straighter lines potentially, if there's any up and down as the game goes on. But as much as we can, I think just challenging their defence, make them play big shots off good balls, and pretty simple sort of standard stuff, I think.
With your dismissal, they moved Harry Brook up from deep mid-wicket to square leg. Is that where you were targeting?
Absolutely. I thought it was a free hit, to be honest, and it sort of just sat in the wicket a little bit, and I pretty much middled it straight up in the air. So
38 metres high it went or something.
Was it?
Yeah.
There you go. So I hit it all right. Just needed to hit it a bit flatter, and I might have got the result I was after.
All right, I'm going to jump out of this, and I'm going to go to this one.
We're not talking about this again, are we?
We are.
2 hours up there.
Did you think you were gone with the run out? Because you seem to be walking back.
Initially I saw it and I saw the bail go up, but I think Johnny knocked it to begin with. Would that be right? I could only see what I saw out in the middle.
We're still trying to work out exactly what happened, to be fair.
Yeah, it looked like there was a knock to begin with, and then, I don't know, it was close. I got given not out in the end. I can't do much else. If I get given out, I walk off the field, but I didn't.
Yeah, which to be fair was the absolute right decision. From everything that the third umpire had seen up to that point until he made his decision was absolutely spot on. So there's no argument from any of us. I think we've all sat back there and talked about it and debated it for the last few hours. We actually think the right decision was made at the time.
What about the mindset, though? Because you were walking off, and it sometimes happens with DRS full stop. You think you're out, you're brought back on reprieve. So you were down here somewhere. So have you mentally almost checked out of your innings, thinking, why did I take that? Why did I take that run out? And then you've got to go back and switch back into an Ashes innings. How difficult is it to flip that switch?
Nah, not hard.
Is it not?
You just get back in the moment, play the game, and maybe have a bit of freedom, thinking I could have been out here and go a bit harder. But, I don't know. Just try and get back in the moment and play.
Well played. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Cheers.
it. How would you sum up the day? Fluctuating day.
Fluctuating day. I think they'll be disappointed, to be honest, Australia. We've heard Steve Smith talk about how good the wicket was. There was some swing. There was some swing for long parts of the day, but that is playing Test cricket in England. I mean, I was on comms late there, and Australia turned up this morning 1 for 61. I think they would have had a lot bigger picture in mind than what we've actually seen. Bowled out for 295. England did bowl really well this morning, but I just don't think there was enough pressure put back on them. There wasn't enough pressure put back on from Khawaja and Labuschagne early. The point you brought up about, does that sort of bat you into a hole if you lose a couple of wickets after the break? Absolutely it does. And I think we saw that. And I think Australia have been lucky to escape and get out of jail with those late runs from Murphy and Cummins at the end.
Right. Well, let's look at that passage of play just after the lunch break. So, slow in the morning. And as you say, it can expose you to a Stuart Broad, and he does this sort of thing in Ashes cricket. This is what got England sparking, wouldn't it?
How often have you heard it when you look up at the scoreboard and there's not a lot of runs there, and you just say, imagine if we could just put 2 more wickets on that now. And that's exactly what they did. They put the 2 wickets on when they needed to, and all of a sudden from there they were in control of the game. So, yeah, I mean, it's a really fine line. We heard Steve Smith talking about that bowlers are allowed to bowl well, but batters are also allowed to bat well. They're allowed to try and change things up and try and change the momentum in the game. The very best players in the world do that. They work through the gears. They try and find a way to expose any sort of weakness and put pressure back on the attack. And for mine today, and I'm sure Butch would agree, I just don't think there was quite enough urgency from the Australians in the first 2 or 3 hours played today.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'd probably back up Australia a little bit, just given what's happened, by looking back on it and saying that the ends justifying the means, because they've now got themselves, it's only a slender lead, right? And that's not going to be something that's very significant. But what might turn out to be very significant is the amount of overs that England have just bowled. And we know they're not big fans of batting for many overs themselves. And so you've got the double thought of, okay, well, how hard do we go second innings? How many runs is enough runs to defend in the last innings? And how long are we going to get our bowlers who have played 5 Test matches back to back